Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss the utter chaos that is the Conservative Parliamentary Party right now. Boris Johnson is facing huge pressure over his failed leadership, but Tory rebels are under pressure as well. And the latest act by some of them to try and persuade colleagues to withdraw letters of no confidence just exposes how unfit these people in general are to govern. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, of course, in my case, I generally think Conservative governments are unfit to lead the country. That's my default position. I see their policies as destructive and divisive, and it hasn't mattered under whom. I've lived under 5 Conservative Prime Ministers, and I've always seen their policies as that. You know, I see so many in the party that have no concern for others. And yes, selfish people exist in all parties, but the sheer scale of these attitudes in the Tory party is something else. Born of the fact that they have a massively increased proportion of their members, of the parliamentary party that is, that come from private schools who've never had to concern themselves with the issues that ordinary people face. As far as Westminster is concerned, they have an attitude that is only matched by the DUP. And even the DUP have some basic principles. But apart from my general disdain for conservatism, even when pursued honestly, what we have now is a shambles. I talked earlier this week about how the prospect of a confidence vote is risky for both Johnson, but also Tory MPs in general. Like, even if Boris Johnson wins such a vote, if it isn't by a big margin, his leadership will be fatally wounded. Let's say he only just wins the vote. I did joke before about, let's say he wins it by 52% for a laugh. But his authority is gone then. But it's also bad for the Conservative Party in general, because if Johnson isn't defeated, he will drag the entire party down with him. You know, getting rid of him will be extremely messy if he doesn't resign willingly, as Theresa May did. It's easy to see why Johnson is unfit for office. Like, consider his defence regarding Partygate. The charge is that he broke his own laws. And forget all this nonsense about wine and cake. That's what the Tories want us to focus on, to downplay his guilt. Remember what he actually is guilty of. The laws he broke, they weren't there to prevent drunkenness or diabetes. So wine and cake have nothing to do with it. The laws existed to stop people from different households mixing together indoors in order to suppress the spread of a deadly infectious airborne disease. But Boris Johnson encouraged staff to jam themselves together in small rooms when there was no necessity to do so for work purposes. As a result, a lot of government staff became ill. But the serious thing is, had news of these antics become public at the time, it would have undermined the law throughout the entire country, and the resultant death toll and number of long COVID cases would have been way higher. That's what he's guilty of. And that, if nothing else, is why unfit to govern. But his defence makes him more unfit to govern, because what is his defence? His defence is that he didn't know, he didn't understand his own laws, even though he kept explaining them on the telly to people. So his defence is that he was stupid and incompetent. You know, the parties that took place, the really bad ones, he said that he wasn't there for. He said, oh, that was other people, that was other staff. So his also defence is that he cannot manage staff within a single building, that his leadership skills are too poor to manage the behaviour of his staff. His defence is one of incompetence. So even if you accept his defence, he's still unfit to govern. But what of the Conservative Party as a whole? Well, consider the latest report I'm seeing in The Guardian, that some Tory rebels are now urging their colleagues to withdraw confidence letters. Why? These are the MPs who want Johnson gone, and with all haste. The reason, we are told, is because leadership challenges are not ready yet. The absolute state of this clown show. Because what does this tell us? It tells me 2 things. First, these leadership challengers who are not ready. Why not? They've known for 6 months that this day was coming. They've known for 6 months that Johnson has been fatally wounded. The political situation right now was entirely foreseeable and foreseen at the start of this year. We knew that more revelations were going to come out about Partygate, and they still will. We haven't finished with that. We knew that there would be a cost of living crisis. We knew that our trade was going to be further buggered. We knew that there would be travel chaos this summer. Everything that a leadership contender needs to find policies for in order to give people confidence that they've got a better way forward, everything was known about months ago. If Tory MPs cannot find a champion who is ready for this moment with so much forewarning, they are basically saying they've got no champion at all. Unfit to govern. But the second thing it tells us is that the Conservative Party are not coordinated. 6 months ago, we may have imagined that Tory rebels would group together and orchestrate Johnson's fall. When the time was right, when there was the support, that's when they would strike. What we've seen in the last week, however, is Tory MPs submitting their confidence letters independently. The ones who've gone public. It's all been a little trickle every few days. Not a big load of them all going in one day. Not like 40 of them marching through the corridor towards Sir Graham Brady's office with their letters in hand, going past the whips going, hey up, your job's gone soon. No coordination. They're not talking to each other. Now, I can tell you exactly why this is. Boris Johnson developed a system of taking MPs out of the equation of government, circumventing Parliament. He's passed legislation without their scrutiny. And I don't just mean the coronavirus regulations. Consider whole pages of what we call the policing bill, but is now the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Act 2022. It's in law now. It was never submitted to the select committees for parliamentary scrutiny like it's supposed to be. But it was still passed. MPs didn't go, hang on a minute, we didn't debate this properly. No, we want to debate it. No, it was passed. We now have new criminal offences, and MPs haven't so much as read them, much less debated them. Johnson created this culture of MPs just nodding along, vote how they were told to vote and not worry their pretty little heads about anything because King Boris would make sure they won their seat in the elections. Now, I have made clear in the past, if a candidate stands under the banner of a party, it should vote the way the leadership directs them almost all the time. There are the odd exception, like if what you're asking to vote for is against the interests of your constituency, fine, get a pass. Or if the government's going to break international law, yes, you don't vote for that. But by and large, you should vote as instructed. If you don't like it, then don't stand under your party's banner. Stand as an independent or for another party. But that doesn't mean to say you have to vote blindly. It is still the duty of an MP to find out what they're voting for and to question things. If Tory MPs are not doing this, is it any wonder that they don't even talk to each other? Because why would you? Why would you talk to each other if you're not doing your job properly? What we're now seeing is that Tory MPs are utterly incapable of coordinating even amongst themselves. If they cannot even do that, they are wholly unfit to govern. To govern a country, we need people who can coordinate tens of millions of people. How are they going to unleash Britain's potential when they cannot even marshal their own forces? They cannot even organise the transfer of power within their own parliamentary party of just a few hundred supposedly close colleagues. The utter shambles on display here. So now it seems Tory rebels want the confidence vote to wait until after the by-election in 3 weeks. And okay, that would be the best bet strategically in many ways. The problem is that they risk further damage. Like, you can look at it a couple of ways. Firstly, you can say, yeah, okay, if you can orchestrate the letters so that they reach the required number during the last week of June, you've got more chance of bringing Johnson down because he will have almost certainly then lost 2 more by-elections. Because there may be some MPs at the moment are looking at it and thinking, yeah, we're probably going to lose them. But you don't know how badly. But in 3 weeks' time, we'll know how badly. They'll have lost a safe blue wall seat and a red wall seat. It would be a disaster for claims that Johnson is an electoral asset still. Wakefield is the most dangerous because the Conservatives aren't too bothered about losing to the Lib Dems. They know they can only lose so many seats to them in a general election. Right now, they could lose any seat to them. But in a general election, they know they can only lose so many. The Lib Dems are not going to win like 100 seats or anything. So the Conservatives can't lose enough to the Lib Dems to lose their majority at the next election. But Labour have the potential to take way more seats off them overall. If Wakefield were to be lost, that would be very bad. If it were to be lost by a hefty margin, it would be horrendous for them. And that would certainly turn some Tory MPs from supporting Johnson to not. So from a rebel's point of view, Yeah, okay, wait until the end of June. You also give those leadership challengers 3 more weeks to get their lazy arses in gear. But then you look at it another way. Yes, you're giving leadership contenders time to set out their stalls, but you're also giving Boris Johnson time to work on a strategy of mutually assured destruction. I don't imagine that he'll be sat back waiting for the inevitable. If you want to get rid of him, you have to get rid of him quickly before he can act. He's not going to sit there resigned to his fate thinking, I've got another few months, then I'm going to face a confidence vote and I might lose it. We've already heard of threats of a general election this year to scare off rebels. What if Johnson felt cornered and he just pushed the button on that? Disaster for the Tories. Why give Johnson more notice of his fate than necessary? Absolute shambles. Policies aside, this bunch of clowns are completely unfit for government. All of them. The whole collective. Not just from a polity or a moral point of view, but just the fact they could not manage a lemonade stand. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. Maybe even click on the join button if you'd be interested in memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.